There we go. So as I mentioned, this will be recorded. Quickly, just want to flip into the agenda. Oh, yep, there we go. So I'm going to run through introductions first. One of our presenters, you can see Cynthia. She's going to then talk about RedTeam, sort of who we are and what we do. Then we're going to really get into the meat of the subject matter, talk about project stakeholders, both internal and external, how Fieldlens by RedTeam can help out all of those players. And then lastly, we're going to go into sort of some next steps, action items. Basically, what you've seen on the screen will hopefully kind of gear you up and get you thinking about how you can best utilize this with your projects. So you can either up or use the free version or upgrade to the paid version, and then of course you'll see these things along the way. Of course, have some questions. So then we'll have a little bit of time for Q&A at the end. I just want to go into intros. First, we have Carly Melly, our subject matter expert on Fieldlens and RedTeam mobile apps. Then Cynthia Gill, you can see Cynthia already with me on the screen here. She is our industry specialist. Of course, you have myself, industry specialist. Just so I'm also talking from a place of experience. I was a former project manager. And we have Nicole Chance, who will be doing the demo. She's our product consultant here. So I'm going to hand it over to Cynthia, and she's going to give you a little rundown on RedTeam.
Well, thank you, Eric. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Cynthia Gill. I am an industry specialist for RedTeam software, just like Eric. I do have about 10 years of commercial construction experience working for general contractors. And, Eric, Nicole, and Carrie also have hands-on construction experience. Historically, RedTeam always wants to hire people that have construction experience. And the reason why is because, one, we can lean on each other for best practices. And the number one reason is because we can better serve our clients, who are primarily commercial general contractors. And RedTeam has great products for general contractors. But Fieldlens, which is the application that we're going to go over today, that one happens to be not just for general contractors. We also have engineers, architects, subcontractors, specialty subcontractors. Anyone that wants to track progress on the job site really can use the application. And it's used to enhance the communication process. Once you start using it, you'll realize it is super easy to use. I'm not the most technology savvy person in the world, and I just began using it, and I didn't need to learn like the how-tos or watch any how-to videos. That's how easy it was for me. And Fieldlens is a collaboration platform, and it memorializes all of the communications, the back and forth going on in the field. An example of how we use it is by having the superintendent walking around the job site. And can you imagine the superintendent taking videos and photos and then pinning those to the drawings? One can be related to an RFI. The other one can be related maybe to a deficiency that needs to be sent to the subcontractor for response. And subcontractors don't have to have Fieldlens. They receive that notification via email and they can respond to it. They can access Fieldlens as well and then take a picture of the deficiency that was corrected, and that conversation gets memorialized. And the superintendent can then go back to that and say, okay, it's good to go, it's closed, or wait a second. Go back and check that again because I don't think it's completed yet. And the ability to go back and review historical data of all of that information is incredibly powerful for your team. I am very excited about this platform. I know everyone here is too, and we're very excited to show it to you. Thanks so much for joining. It's back to you, Eric.
Thanks, Cynthia. Yeah, so that was a great run through, kind of talk about everything holistically. Just to be very blunt and blatant, basically, you're going to look at this feed today. It's going to have all that information that Cynthia kind of mentioned, talking about images, videos, issues tagged to drawings. You also have the ability to perform markups, send RFIs, submittals, a lot of things that were just mentioned. And just to give you a little bit of context, so the primary workflow is posting from the mobile, and viewing either on mobile, both on the a tablet or phone, as well as on the web. So you can also make posts from the web. Web's also a great way to review all this information, whether you're a project exec sitting back at the home office, or we're going to talk a lot about owners here as well. And then the ability to create reports, manage drawing is also primarily a web app workflow too. So just want to provide a little bit of context. Today, you'll be seeing the web app, although there are a lot of great features, like I mentioned, the ability to post and utilize a lot of those visualization tools within the mobile app. So we're going to jump right into it. What we really did here was we're focusing on sort of two lenses from the GC's perspective. So we're trying to cover a lot of topics today. So we took kind of a broad approach, and we took both the external stakeholders versus the internal stakeholders. So just thinking about the external stakeholders first, we talked about owner, design team, and subcontractor, specialty contractor here. So at a real high level, the GC, the perspective, what they want to do for the owner is really keep them informed on progress. And a phrase I used a lot was manage their expectations. You ultimately want to keep them happy, but if things don't quite go as expected, you want to manage those. You want to kind of tee them up. Hey, this delivery is coming a little bit late, so this milestone might not be made on time. You want to build that trusting relationship. So ultimately, we're going to win more jobs. Once you have a nice owner that you want to work for, they have a good steady stream of work, it's great to kind of get in with them, have that relationship and keep things going. I know that's kind of how a lot of my work worked out, and it was nice to build a relationship, obviously. The design team also want to keep them informed, keep them up to date. It's a little bit different as far as the design team goes, but they really want to know, what the installed conditions are looking like, making sure we're meeting specs, meeting quality. I think on a lot of projects, there are certain sort of architectural features that really get honed in on. And the design team really looks forward to. This is kind of their, this is their baby in a sense. I can think of a specific one on one of the projects I was doing. We had this beautiful feature wall. It was called Garden on the Wall. It was right in the entryway vestibule. Really cool project, but there was a lot of steps for that installation. It involved specialty contractor ultimately. So keeping that design team informed, hey, making sure I have the right substrate. Yeah, that was a fire rated construction that went in behind it. And making sure they have that transparency and that visibility into all the steps. So there's no surprises after the fact, avoiding rework, anything like that. And then, of course, engineering codes and regulations, we all want to follow that. Those can be costly mistakes if something was missed. So making sure that the engineering team has good visibility into the status of, where things are, inspections that are passed, making sure you're kind of hitting that checklist to eventually get, to that TCO, make sure everything as far as life safety is in place. And then we talked about specialty and subcontractors kind of in the same bucket, although subcontractors are, oftentimes under your umbrella. In a sense, they do operate kind of externally. They want to make sure they're not being overstretched. They want to make sure that their manpower is being used efficiently. So we kind of took them in that external bucket as well. But they operate roughly the same way. So in order to keep any sort of specialty sub, whether it's one-off sub that's under your owner's umbrella or it's your personal subcontractor that you have under your umbrella, it's important to keep them happy. Like I mentioned, want to work with them efficiently, so they're not sending 10 guy crews out there that are standing around not doing anything. And on pace, it's important to give updates to the sub, as well as the sub give updates back to the GC. Yes, that material is on in my warehouse. We're ready to go, gearing up for next week. Excited to get our section finished, whatever it is. I oftentimes when I think about a specialty flooring, I think about terrazzo installation. I've worked with a couple of great terrazzo subs in my day. One of them was specifically a specialty, under the owner's umbrella. These guys were legit, but then when they were coming, you really had to make sure that they knew they had the location ready. Nothing had to be moved. Everything was off the floor. They had a clear workspace to get going. Mobilization charges were talked about, but you send pictures, you send them out updates, in the Fieldlens context, they know what to expect. They're ready to go. You build that trusting relationship, and everything's going to be working out as smoothly as possible. So keeping all of that in mind, now we're going to kind of shift gears to with Fieldlens, how can we accomplish or overcome some of those obstacles? Thinking about the logos here on the left-hand side. So we first have the owners, then we have those subs or specialty contractors, and last at the bottom there, that's the design team. So just kind of quickly touch on these. You'll really get to see more about everything once Nicole runs through the demo, but just quickly, I'll talk about them. For the owners, the transparency, we have the ability to create daily posts. That's the ultimate way to manage expectations. Owners can view the live feed, they can see pictures, they can see videos, they can see all the cool things that are happening on site. Or if they don't want to look on daily posts, we send out weekly reports. Nicole's going to show you how to set up. You can really set it and forget it, a weekly report, or you can create one instantly. It's a very nice feature. I think about, you can filter them by trade, location, timeline. I think about a weekly report. You send it out at maybe a Friday, 1, 2 p.m. Everyone's kind of winding down, and they can kind of get this report sent directly to their inbox. It can come either in a PDF or an Excel or CSV file. Oftentimes, I hear about some of these big logo developers. They have maybe their own templates, they call them. It's essentially just a PowerPoint or an Excel file that you still have to go out, take the images, send them to yourself, drop them into these templates, and then send them out. That's a few steps that we're really mitigating right then and there. So as you'll see with the creation of those reports, it's very streamlined, extremely easy, and it's nice. The email gets sent out automatically directly from Fieldlens. So great tool right there. And then moving on to the subs and the specialties, they have an obligation to keep track of their resources. We have an obligation to kind of keep them up to date on the submittals, when they're being approved, how the shop drawings are coming along. So the ability to see the approval process, which you'll be able to see in a minute with Nicole. You'll literally get to see she has due dates set to certain things. There is a ball in court. What's been approved, what's been rejected. And you can tell, the second that shop drawing, maybe it's revise and resubmit, the second that happens, you'll be able to see that information. Kind of in the same vein, the punch and closeout process, also same ability to assign, create due dates, open, close. Great features right there. Ultimately, we want to, get to that punch list process, close everything out, get a quality product, make sure we get our retainage, move on to the next job. So very helpful with the closeout process and everything as far as assigning due dates, knowing exactly who has the ball in their court. Then the last thing, just touching on safety measures, obviously extremely important. Those have impacts on personal lives. So doing everything that we can to ensure that all our safety measures are met, whether it's you creating a safety checklist, you can create sort of custom fields and tags in Fieldlens, which you can make sure that you're filling out properly, as well as documenting. If you have any sort of pre-action checklist, take a picture of that. I know some scaffolding, you have to install that properly, make sure you have a checklist hung on that scaffold. That's a nice thing to document, make sure you have that. And then lastly, just moving on to the design team, talks about collaborative review process here. So when I think of a collaborative review process, I think of those RFIs that truly come from the field. It's not just an item that's caught on a drawing. Hey, this doorway doesn't make sense. It's not being there. Now, this is something that's in the field that, you're working on it real time. And you kind of figure out, well, I don't know if this is going to work out the way it was detailed. So you take a bunch of pictures, send a video. You can literally mark it up and tag it on the Fieldlens app. You can do markups on that picture that you're taking. You can tag it exactly to the drawing so you know exactly where that is. So there's no ambiguity, no real questions. And if you got to push it a little bit faster, maybe you send it directly to that architect so they can get an email. Maybe you even give them a call and say, hey, I just put this on Fieldlens. I got a really hard RFI. This is impacting X, Y, and Z work. I think of a lot these linear light fixtures that we see nowadays. They're very skinny, long ones, and they have the wires that are attached to the ceiling. Those are hot fixtures right now, as well as those exposed sort of industrial beam ceilings. I can think of a specific situation. The way they're drawn out, the light fixtures are going to be a nice, perfect rows, all spaced out equally. But once they hit a beam, the whole sort of layout goes kaput. So I think of a situation, well, do we move it 1 foot over so we miss the beam, but then the whole thing gets out of whack? So they want us to skip this one, do we move on to the next? So this is what I think of as a real RFI from the field. You take all those questions, you take all those images, mark it up, send it out. Hopefully the design team gets back to you in a quick, timely manner. And then lastly, talked about closeout in the sense of specialty and subcontractors, but also extremely helpful to facilitate that for the design team. So I've seen designers that are literally walking through with their camera, and they have to go back to the office, put everything in an Excel sheet. With Fieldlens, you'll be able to really streamline that process. You'll be able to literally walk through, take hundreds of photos, write descriptions, captions of them, post them, tag them to punch lists. Then the GC will sort of do their due diligence, reviewing all of them, assign them to who needs to be assigned to, and you'll have trackable information there. Maybe they're 2-week assignments, maybe they're 3 weeks, whatever your project has. But it's very nice. You can create due dates and put the ball in court, and the ability to send images back, comment, and then those will get in the correct hands that they need to be. So now we're going to switch over to the internal stakeholders. When we talked about internal stakeholders, once again, we're looking from the lens of the GC. First, we're talking about the general contractor as a whole, and then we're talking about our specific staff, the project management staff, and then the field staff. So just thinking from the GC as a whole, what are their responsibilities? Once again, they're acting as a middle person with a lot of different personalities here. So they need to communicate with the subs. They need to communicate with the design team, and ultimately they need to communicate with the owner, making sure that keeping the owner happy, pushing the pace on the project, keeping the finances in order, everything like that. So they also, with that, they need to mitigate and control risk. So risk can be in the context of time. Like I said, finances obviously come into a big portion of that, and then safety. Safety is a huge risk. Constructions sites are dangerous places. We try and mitigate it the best we can, but ultimately, it is a dangerous job. So taking the PM specifically, what their individual responsibilities are, they need to overview the project. Maybe they aren't on the site all the time. Maybe they're not doing site walks, but they're in the office, they're in the trailer, but maybe they're not specifically, walking out in the middle of the work as much as the site super or the foreperson. So at a high level, they need to have that oversight of the general sort of scope of work. Next, they're controlling documents. So we know there's a lot of documentation, whether it's RFIs, submittals, change orders, contracts, insurance, and then billing. Billing obviously comes into a huge part of it. And then with billing comes in what was actually installed in the field. And then lastly, we talk about the relationship management. I talked about they're a middle person. There's a lot of different relationships on the site. So points of contention come up. In my experience, they've usually come around either money or situations in the field. So when you're talking about from being in the shoes of the project manager, when you're talking about certain field conditions, having an accurate view and account of what's actually going on is paramount. We all get those calls sometimes from whoever, whether it's the carpenter, the sheetrock guy, hey, the plumbers are in the way. I hate to pick on the plumbers, but that's the call I've gotten before. Knowing exactly what this location that's in question is looking like, even though you haven't been on the site for a week, but you have that full backlog of information. You filter exactly by that room. Hey, yesterday, this was ready. You guys should have been out of there. So definitely helps with those conversations. And then lastly, site supers and foremen and women on the site right now, they have a lot of tasks on their plate. So they're managing the entire job site. Ultimately, they want to keep things moving. And doing that, they got to make sure that they have the materials on site and the timing is accurate, as well as having the right crew in the right location. So that's when we think about managing resources, making sure, all right, are 6 guys really going to fit in that hallway if we have work going on overhead as well? So that's sort of what's on their top of mind, dealing with that sort of coordination in the field. And then that kind of leads into the site logistics, knowing if a location is ready for work or what the sequence of orders should be. Those are some big predominant tasks they have there. Avoiding traffic jams, of course. Does a project manager need to kind of step in and, hey, call X, Y, and Z contractor and say, hey, I need more manpower on site? So when we were talking about this specific webinar, this is sort of what the internal focus we were looking at. So now, taking all of that into account, once again, we're going to talk about, what the value adds will be with a Fieldlens sort of mindset. For the GC as a whole, how can we mitigate risks? Risks often come in the form of time. So I think of things that have taken a lot of time. Think about RFIs, deficiency, punch lists. We want to get that closed out as fast as possible. And then submittals. Submittals can be an easy way to kind of knock yourselves back a little bit. If you don't have a submittal in time and reviewed in time, then that unfortunately is just, it's going to add time to your schedule. So having that clear, actionable timeline in Fieldlens, being able to see that as it's working through, is extremely valuable for the GC. Also, having that consistent visual communication of photos, videos, drawings, and markups, that will kind of facilitate that continuous job site communication. So we talked about managing expectations. When you have photo documentation from every day from the start through the middle of the project, there's not really a lot of questions to be had there. You're really showing exactly what's going on field, high level of transparency. And then I mentioned this before, but sending out those weekly reports, whether it's just an open items report, whether it's even like a safety report, that will help you achieve a lot of those necessary items as a GC, as a whole. Next, moving on to the project manager's perspective, how can Fieldlens provide fast and accurate data? I mentioned the document management. There's a lot of documents that involve sort of finances. There's also a lot of documents that involve like drawings and specifications. So the drawing updates are extremely important. Unfortunately, drawings change a lot, or maybe they're just not entirely accurate. So something that Nicole is going to show you is the ability to upload, compare, mark up drawings, whether they're just temporary markups or what we have as red line markups. Those are ones that are going to stay there, be permanent, only allowed by specific users, but maybe something was caught in the field. There isn't a new drawing set pushed out yet, but you can do those red line markups that everyone's working off the latest and greatest. And making sure that every sub has access to that. I mentioned the prominence of tablets on job sites nowadays. So if every sub has their own tablet, has an updated Fieldlens account, then they'll always have access to the latest and greatest drawings there. And then site supers and foremen and women, Fieldlens facilitates actions on the site. So it's easy to view these posts. It's easy to view who's assigned, what the due date is, if it's open, closed, even if it's overdue, then you kind of know what the hot button issues are. And this can be done from the mobile app or the tablet. Of course, seeing the site every day, they kind of maybe get numb to situations, or they've seen so much that they don't necessarily catch everything in the moment because they just have so much in their mind. But being able to sit down and review the Fieldlens, look at things, progression over time, whether it's by trade or by location, and then comparing it to maybe the 2-week look ahead when they have a chance to kind of take a breath, is extremely helpful as well. Also, maybe there's a safety audit or some sort of site safety inspection that's kind of happening. If you kind of just look down, you can filter things. Nicole will show you that in a few minutes. The ability to filter and see everything, by maybe this is just safety items, or maybe you make your own safety sort of checklist and review that and make sure everything's kind of staying up to date in that sense as well. And then, unfortunately, if a safety issue does occur, whether there's, a near miss or an incident, the importance of documenting the conditions, the work conditions, what was done, writing out that description in case there's, God forbid there's ever litigation or any sort of insurance claim. There's a great ability to do that in Fieldlens as well. So that's just talking about, those internal stakeholders there. And then lastly, I just want to mention, I know we do have some RedTeam Flex users on the call as well. We talked about this in the first Fieldlens webinar, but I also want to make mention of it here. There's some great integrations as far as Flex, RedTeam Flex, and Fieldlens. So it enables a lot of those field sort of actions, specifically RFIs and punch lists, to be pushed back to Flex and working in those portions that are office sort of workflows. So really nice tool to kind of marry both the field and the office with that RedTeam, Flex, and Fieldlens integration. So next, I'm just going to pass it off to Nicole, and we will go through the demo now.
Hi, everyone. My family woke up sick yesterday. Of course, today I woke up feeling pretty bad. So earlier today, I recorded the demo portion before sniffles and sneezes got worse, since I'm sure no one wants to listen to that. So I have the recording here, went through a ton of information. I hope that you enjoy the content in the demo. You learned something that you didn't already know. I am going to stick around to help answer questions during the Q&A portion as well. So let's watch the demo. Hello, I'm Nicole Chance, a product consultant here at RedTeam. I have 10 years of experience in construction as a project manager in commercial construction. And I would have loved to have a solution like Fieldlens to track job site communication that took place in email, text, and phone calls outside of my PM software. So inevitably, issues my team had on site would require them to call me to get my direction. Then I would have to call or email the owner or architect, and I would have to send a follow-up email to have a written record of the discussions. And then I'd have to save that email and any responses to my project in my PM software. So I had multiple steps that took a ton of time, and more often than not, some detail was overlooked by someone somewhere in that communication chain. With Fieldlens, I have the option to open a web browser on my laptop or to use the mobile app on my tablet or cell phone. The functionality on both the web browser and the mobile app is nearly identical. So I'll be demonstrating some key functionality using the web version today, just to have some more space to make it easier for you to see everything. Cynthia and Eric already touched on the main features, how those help all the project collaborators, but I wanted to dive in a little bit deeper to show you exactly how those things work and maybe get you thinking about what you could do with Fieldlens. I love Fieldlens so much I may start using it to get my husband and I on the same page, but I digress. So the first thing I kind of wanted to touch on a little bit here is the project settings, which include the ability to either import or create categories and locations, which can be used on the project. So if we open up categories here, We can see that they can be imported, that they're imported from other Fieldlens projects. So you can set them up once and just import them into new projects. Categories can be added to every post. Typically you would have things like change order, daily log, delivery, inspection, schedule impact, anything that you want to be able to filter by later and potentially use to create custom reports with. So for example, I just want to show that punch list. I have several items here under punch list that I've chosen to add. If I wanted some additional things under patch and paint, I could build out a couple of more levels here as well. Locations can be imported via a CSV file or added manually to each project. If you do a lot of the same type of work, perhaps just as an example, TI work on restaurants, you could have locations built out with common areas like main entrance, rear exit, main dining room, kitchen, etc. And you can have up to 4 sub-locations as well to really dial in exactly what locations you want to specify. They can be added to drawings and posts. So you'll be able to filter drawings later to see only those pertaining to certain locations. You can also filter posts to see only those that deal with a particular location. You can quickly and easily add them manually here or import using our CSV template. The first thing you do when you create a project is add the name and address of the project and then add people to the team. There's a form when you create the project. It's much like the people tab that you see here. You want to be able to communicate immediately. So you can add people to the project. They have the suggested list here. So it's all people that you have worked with previously. You can multi-select and add several at one time. And you can also enter email addresses of anyone that's not used Fieldlens before. They'll get an email that you invited them to a project. All they need to do is click on the link in that email to add their name and basic company information, and then they can get to work on that project immediately. It's worth noting that you can add free users to your project, but they'll not have access to some features which may impact their level of collaboration on the project. For example, free users cannot view the drawings tab, so they can't view or mark up drawings to attach to RFIs and other posts. Any revised drawings added to the project at any point will not be accessible for them through Fieldlens. They'll also lose out on the ability to use advanced filters, which I'll demonstrate in a little bit, and they cannot create or view reports. If your company wants all collaborators to be added to the project at no cost while having full functionality, you have the option to purchase 10 or more paid seats for your company, which gives you access to ecosystem. It's a great tool. It enables you to add all of your subcontractors, architects, engineers, project owners, etc., without having to pay for all the additional licenses on each project. So now I want to take a look at the Posts tab. Everyone on the project, regardless of paid status, is going to have access to posts. Note that RFIs and submittals will be available for everyone to view since the responses may impact several trades, their work, and schedule. All other post types will only be seen by those that you have sent the post to or have assigned the post to, things like safety or punch, or just general notices that are meant for one or a small group of people that you want to maintain a record of, but don't want everyone on the team to be able to view. So I'm not going to go into everything that you can do with posts. If you'd like to see a little bit more about the capabilities in posts, you can visit RedTeam's events page. Take a look at the on-demand and upcoming webinars so that you can check out more about Fieldlens and other RedTeam products. So just to touch on the standard post types over here on the left, they include RFI, submittal, punch list, safety list. You also have the ability to create posts without those types. You can include the categories that I referenced earlier, so you can filter by other items that are important to you, perhaps schedule delays or daily log or weather alert. Posts can be assigned to one or more responsible parties. So when one person is done with their task, the post can be reassigned to the next person in line to complete some portion of the task. So you're able to maintain ball in court that way without having to create new posts every time one person completes their task. So you can easily see who was assigned to the post and whether their work is still open or if their portion of the work is resolved. So just to take a look at one of the posts here, this one, number 9. It's an example of a post that maybe your internal team or your subcontractors can create to just make a quick update of work completed on site that day. You may want to require your subcontractors to add a quick post like this with some resource tracking, the weather, a few details about the work completed on site for the day. You can add these categories here like daily log or progress, for example. You can then filter the posts to see all the posts with the category daily log for today's date, to see all work completed on site today. So just a note, posts can have more than one category to make it easier to filter to exactly what you need later on. One more post example here just for reference, this closed RFI. So we created the RFI, we assigned it to the architect, we added a markup and attach right here. Then the architect marked it up even further, and we can see his response right here. And then he let us know that his portion was resolved. He gave us the attachment. That's his response. So all users will be able to see this RFI response. We can also share that response by email if it's perhaps going to go to somebody who is not using Fieldlens. We can also now update the assignees and maybe send this to affected subcontractors just to make sure that they give a thumbs up, let us know that they acknowledge this, they understand the response, and they're good to go. So just to take a look at some of the advanced filters here in posts and really available throughout much of Fieldlens. I just want to call out that these advanced filters, I can filter down to exactly the posts I want to see. So, you know, if I select something here, like the categories we were just talking about, I select daily log as an example, I apply that filter, and I can see the couple of posts that I have so far that have that particular category. And then using this export report option over on the right-hand side, I can then create a report with only those posts that I've filtered down to. The report will be downloaded to your device for viewing. It'll also be stored in the reports tab as well. We'll touch on that in just a second. Note that if users have the Fieldlens mobile app on their tablet or cell phone and they've enabled push notifications, they'll instantly receive push notifications when they're sent a post or assigned to a post, and when any additional information is added to those posts. So they'll receive real-time alerts just like they would if you sent them a text, but now it's also stored in the Fieldlens project. So looking into the reports page, I just wanted to show you how to filter and create a report from the this tab as well, since I just showed you how you could do so from the post tab. You're going to see here a list of reports that I've created previously, whether from the post tab or directly from this tab, as well as any reports others have created and shared with me. So just like I showed in posts, there's the export reports option, and I can filter down to exactly what I want to view and the time frame. Same type of filters here, and then select if I want to share this report with others. I can change the title. I can select which types of posts are here. I can send it to just myself, or I can send it to multiple people on the project. I can also change the format a little bit. Maybe I want to customize how the report is going to look. I can change the information that shows up on the cover page of the report. I can show as much or as little detail as I want in that report. Also, my favorite feature is that you can schedule these reports to run at certain intervals. So I can create a one-time report, runs right now, remains in the project for me. Maybe I want to schedule reports at certain times though. So I can do that here. I can maybe select a report of all posts from the day at the end of each workday, can schedule that report with all posts to run at 6 p.m. every day, for example. Maybe I want to send the owner a progress update once per week. So you can set that that filter for all posts that have the category progress or daily log, depending on what categories you choose, to be sent every Friday at 6 p.m. to the owner. Maybe I'm the PM and I create a report to run daily to be sent to me and my project engineer with all of the open RFIs and submittals for him or her to follow up on each day. So the reports are going to take less than a minute to generate. They're going to download to your device. You can open the PDF. Don't worry if you lose that file. The report will be stored in the report tab, whether you create a one-time report or schedule a recurring report. So just quickly to look at a report, it's downloaded to my device. I can see I just created a report yesterday with those 2 daily log posts. So it'll just kind of lay out nicely the information that I wanted to be able to share with whomever I wanted to share it with. Super quick and very easy to use. I also want to touch a little bit on the drawings tab. So you can store all of your drawings here. You can upload different revisions. I also want to show that when you have uploaded drawings, you can upload a single file, a PDF with several drawing sheets. The system will separate all of the drawings and suggest the names and numbers. You have the option to update them. You can add locations if you want at this point. You can also add them later on. Also just want to show you can filter drawings by discipline here as well. So if I just want to see all the architecturals, for example, I can do so. You can also filter by location or just those drawings that have posts on them. Again, that advanced filters option is available in drawings. So if I want to take a look at very specific locations with drawings, if I want to take a look at those certain disciplines, any kind of tags, if it's, I just want to look at the bulletin 2 drawings, I can do so. Just to take a look at one of my drawings here, I'll open this first drawing. Anyone on the project has the ability to mark up and attach drawings. So a lot of places throughout the product, you can see a learn more option. It'll give you a little bit of a product walkthrough. So if you have any additional questions as you try out Fieldlens or you continue using Fieldlens, please always feel free to click on those. One more quick side note while I'm thinking about it, the Help Center in the bottom left-hand corner has some great articles and also chat support. If you ever have a question, you can't figure something out, please feel free to use that. So with markup and attach, I have a lot of great options here. Everyone on the project has the ability to mark up and attach. This allows a user to make a quick markup to call out a specific area or question and attach it to something like an RFI to provide additional detail. These markups will not remain on the actual drawing. It will only be available in the snapshot added to the post. You can also add a stamp or a manual hyperlink, text box, lines, drawings, etc. We also have red line markups. So exactly the same look to red line markups. I just wanted to point out that these are permanent markups that only project organizers in Fieldlens can create. So these markups will help generate your as-built conditions on the drawings. The same markup functionality as I just explained, but you publish it to the project and markups remain a part of the drawing. So something like the pylon is moved over 3 feet to the right of where it's shown on the drawing, something like that. You can also do an overlay comparison. So this particular drawing, there's a previous version of this sheet. So I can compare, and in doing so, it's going to call out the changes between the 2 versions of my drawing. You can also compare to other drawings. Maybe you have a certain detail you want to compare to a different sheet. You're able to do that here as well. Really easy and quick call outs for with the different colors to denote original or updated version sheet or one sheet from another. A great easy visual to allow you to determine maybe you need to submit a change order request to the project owner. If your subcontractors have paid licenses or you added them to the team using ecosystem, they'll also have the ability for this overlay comparison to quickly determine if updates impact their work and schedule. The sooner everyone knows how revisions impact them and the work that comes before and after them, the less likelihood for delays and rework. I also lastly just want to mention that you can create a post directly from the drawing itself, which will show up pinned on this drawing. There will be another Fieldlens webinar on March 9th that will include a discussion about usage from a subcontractor perspective. So if you're interested in that, please sign up for the webinar via the link in the follow-up email you'll receive, and I will send it back to Eric. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole. Touched on, a lot there.
Hello. Chance of product. Sorry.
I know we were trying to cover a lot in a short amount of time. So what we did was just kind of give you a good taste, and then we'll have the ability to kind of do some action items in a second once we switch over. And there's going to be 2 QR codes that pop up on the screen. One is going to bring you to the ability to sign up for the free version. So basically right there, if you want to pull out your phone, you're going to tap that QR code, and then it'll bring you to that free version. You can just sign up and kind of dive in a little bit deeper, but Nicole did a good job of talking about that. So, I mean, just take some quick takeaways here. So you can kind of see it was very easy to collaborate, high level of transparency, very easy actionable information, with due dates and assignments, easy ability to track progress. And then, lastly, we talk about that RedTeam Flex integration. So with that, you have that full command center bridging, the field and the office. So just next, you'll see I talked about it briefly, but those are the sort of the call to action abilities right there. If you want to go ahead, sign up for that free account. Like I said, you can pull out your phone right now. That QR code will work on the screen. Make sure you don't tap your phone screen so it focuses on that QR code. And then if you do have, the free version right now, you'd like to upgrade your license, go ahead, use that bottom QR code. Like I said, those do work. We'll leave it up in a second for you guys to pull out your phone, let you do that. And then I'll kind of just lead into, we will have Q&A in a second here. I see we already have some questions coming in, but of course, I just wanted to thank everyone once again. This webinar will be recorded. It'll be shared. We'll share the slide deck here, and then there'll be an email follow-up. So, feel free, if you see anyone reaching out or anyone online, feel free to reach out to anyone from RedTeam. And, lastly, Nicole mentioned it, we do have our final webinar of this 3-part series. That'll be on March 9th. But thank you once again for everyone who's attended. We really appreciate you guys taking the time out. So thank you. And we will open up for questions right now. I see we have a few questions already. I'll take a look at those. I'm going to do my best to answer most of these, but we have a couple other members on the panel that I'm sure I'll be asking for assistance in a few. But first question is, do you have examples or best practices for categories that should be created in Fieldlens? Nicole touched on this a little bit. So we do have a nice help center article that talks a lot about these categories. And then you'll also, so once you create those categories, you also have the ability to kind of import those company-wide or not. It's up to you, but it's a nice feature. You upload those categories once, and then after that one time, then you're set. If you want to implement those company-wide, kind of make your standard operating procedure categories. Next question, what kind of markups does Fieldlens support, on desktop or mobile? So a lot of great markups, the cloud, square, texting, text box abilities, any sort of freehand drawing. You also have the ability to put up any hyperlinks. And a lot of those can be also done on the mobile app as well. I think one of my favorite things as far as marking up is the ability to take an image, and then on the mobile app, you can actually, mark up that image. So sometimes if you're taking a picture of, where 2 steel members are intersecting or where they're supposed to be installed, but, with the ability to really draw on your phone or use, stylus or whatever, you can mark up on an image, which is a really nice feature. and then add a little text in there so there's no ambiguity.
And you can do it in the web version too.
Yeah, thank you, Cynthia. How many drawing plans, how many drawing sheets can you compare at once? So you can compare two drawings at once. Nicole showed you a little bit of that. That's a nice feature. It's an overlay feature and really great as far as change orders or different bulletins being issued. Do we have the ability to upload plans that are already in RedTeam Flex, or do we have to re-upload and rename them in Fieldlens? That's a good question. I might rely on, I don't know if Cynthia, if you know the answer. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, so you do not have to do it twice. You upload the drawings in Fieldlens. I'm sorry, in RedTeam Flex. Once you have them uploaded, you can sync them over into Fieldlens. So there is no double data entry or anything like that. And then when you have a change order that has, during construction, that has like revised drawings, those will flow right into Fieldlens as well.
Thank you. That's perfect.
Yep.
Sorry, I skipped over a question. What will our subcontractors be able to see and do in Fieldlens? So that was touched on a little bit. It does, depend on certain credentials, whether you want them to see everything or not. But they'll basically be able to see that feed, whether if you have the paid version or not paid version, and the eco kind of adds, what sort of ability to the drawings or what ability to the reports they have. I don't know if you want to dive in deeper at all, either Cynthia or Carrie, but generally they'll be able to see the entire feed. They'll have some access to drawings depending on what license you have. But
yeah, I always encourage the ecosystem because any subcontractor can go in there and create an RFI or maybe upload a submittal. So I do encourage that ecosystem. It is the paid version, but the subcontractors do not have to pay for Fieldlens. That's something I want to emphasize. It is completely free to use for the subcontractors.
Yeah, that's a good point. Next question, if the project is already created in RedTeam Flex, will it automatically show up in Fieldlens, or will we also have to create a project in Fieldlens? I'm going to defer to you again, Cynthia, because you got the Flex knowledge.
Sounds good, Eric. Well, when you create the project in RedTeam Flex, you can sync it right onto Fieldlens. There's no need to create the project twice. Who would want to do that anyways, right, Eric?
Yeah, so that's a great point. Thank you. Are the progress reports in RedTeam Flex also shown in Fieldlens? We use the progress reports function in Flex, but not sure if we would also have to create them in Fieldlens too. You're rolling, Cynthia. Keep it going.
Well, RedTeam Flex has a standard daily report, which you can capture using the Flex mobile app. But Fieldlens has another take on that. So with Fieldlens, you can create, capture all of the progress activities in the job site, and then generate a report with a feed of all of those items captured that day to be sent to the project manager daily. Those are hyper-focused on like capturing a lot of media, like pictures and videos and things of that nature, maybe OSHA, violations or anything like that. Hopefully never, but you can capture all of those things inside of Fieldlens, but it is a different format than the one that RedTeam Flex offers. Not the same thing.
Okay, thank you. Will there eventually be a way to link submittals in RedTeam through Fieldlens? That's a roadmap question. I don't want to speculate too much. All I can say is I know like requests from clients are extremely important. We value them. A lot of the new features that we're rolling out are requests from clients. So I would say just hang tight for now. I can get you an answer and get back to you, more accurately. And then last question we have right now, is there any way to keep track of materials that were ordered versus arrived? I can put in a little bit of my 2 cents, and then if anyone wants to add some color, feel free. But I know there are some resources that you can add to Fieldlens. You can kind of pre-populate almost if you make your own sort of resource sheet, whether it's light fixtures, plumbing fixtures, all those sort of supply materials. You can create those, and then as they come in, then you can kind of check them off. You can add images, and then that will come in sort of a form of a resource there. So that's kind of my exposure to it. I'm not sure if that's exactly what you mean, Max, but I do appreciate the question. I don't know, Cynthia or Carrie, if you want to add more to that, but that's sort of my approach to that question.
Well, Eric, you have used it in the field in real life, so I think that was probably the best answer. But I don't know if Carrie, you have another option there.
I agree with you guys. Fieldlens is more like a communication tool, so you can kind of track those, but it's not going to be like in a chart or like that is going to discount what you order versus what you received. So what Eric said is pretty accurate.
Great, thank you. Just want to make sure I'm not missing any portions of that. All right, well, we still have, a few more minutes. If anyone wants to put any more questions, comments, any sort of anything, we really appreciate it right now. I'll leave it open for another minute or so, and then if nothing comes in, then once again, thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time to stop by. And like we mentioned, the last of the Fieldlens webinars, part 3 is on March 9th. So look out for that. And once again, hopefully we see you there. But as of now, no more questions. So everyone enjoy, the rest of their morning, the rest of their day, rest of their week, and hopefully we'll see you all very soon. All right. Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.